The sound of your alarm clock is not just a sound. It is an evolutionary disruption. You open your eyes to a room illuminated by artificial dawn. Your heart rate spikes. A modern cortisol response tailored for ancient survival, now triggered by a digital chime. You drag yourself to a chair. You sit before a glowing rectangle for 480 minutes. Your spine compresses. Your eyes dry out. Your mind starts to drift into a heavy, suffocating fog after only 3 hours. You feel a deep sense of personal failure. You reach for another cup of coffee, forcing your biology to comply. You think you are lazy. You think you lack discipline. But you are wrong. This is the daily ritual of the modern world. We treat our minds like conveyor belts that never need to stop. We measure our worth by a block of time that feels entirely unnatural, because it is. Think about it for a second. Your body is screaming at you to stop, yet you stay seated. The fatigue you feel in your mind is not a flaw in your character. It is an alarm system. It is your ancient biology recognizing a trap. We have built a civilization around a schedule that ignores every single rhythm of the natural world. We wake by the clock. We eat by the clock. We sell our attention in neat 8-hour containers. But here is where it gets worse. This schedule was never designed around human capacity. It was designed for machines. We have taken the complex pulsing engine of human consciousness and tried to run it like a Victorian textile mill. You are currently trapped inside a grand economic experiment, and your exhaustion is the primary data point. To understand why your afternoon collapse feels so heavy, we have to travel back. We must leave the concrete offices and enter the deep, damp forests of Europe during the late Bronze Age. Picture a human camp 3,000 years ago. The sky begins to darken. There are no light bulbs. There are no deadlines. Human activity in this world does not move in a straight line for 8 hours. It moves in pulses. Our ancestors worked in intense, short bursts of energy. They tracked an animal for 2 hours. They gathered berries until their baskets were full. Then they stopped. They sat by the fire. They repaired tools. They slept when the sun went down, woke up in the middle of the night to check the fire, and slept again. This is how our biology was forged. For hundreds of thousands of years, our survival depended on energy conservation. In the wild, burning calories continuously for 8 hours without rest is not a virtue. It is a death sentence. Your brain consumes 20% of your body's metabolic energy. It is an expensive organ to run. Therefore, evolution built a strict defense mechanism. It is called the ultradian rhythm. Every 90 to 120 minutes, your brain shifts from high alertness to a state of mandatory recovery. It demands that you pause. In the Bronze Age, listening to this signal kept you alive. It prevented burnout and saved precious glucose for the next hunt. That is not the strangest part. The concept of working a continuous 8-hour block did not exist for 99% of human history. It is a biological anomaly. When you sit at your desk at 2 in the afternoon, desperate for a nap, your brain is simply doing what it was programmed to do in the forest. It is trying to save your life from an imaginary famine. The proof of this biological mismatch does not come from speculation. It comes from the dark history of industrial sociology. In the year 1926, a wealthy industrialist named Henry Ford noticed something alarming about his factory workers. They were making costly mistakes. They were breaking expensive machinery. They were physically collapsing on the assembly line. Ford did not care about human happiness. He cared about efficiency. He launched a massive cold-blooded observational study across his automotive plants. He forced his workers into different shift lengths. He monitored their output hour by hour, minute by minute. What he discovered shocked the industrial world. He found that after 40 hours of manual labor per week, productivity did not just stall. It plummeted. A worker operating in their 8th consecutive hour produced less than half of what they produced in their first 2 hours. Even worse, the rate of human error grew exponentially after the 6th hour. The response will scare you. Ford realized that the 8-hour workday was the absolute mathematical limit of human endurance before the machine of flesh broke down. It was never a formula for human flourishing. It was a formula for maximum extraction. But there is a darker twist to this experiment. Ford was studying men pulling levers and tightening bolts with their muscles. In the late 20th century, scientists applied these same metrics to cognitive labor. They found that for creative, analytical, and deep mental work, the human brain can only sustain peak focus for about 3 to 4 hours a day. Beyond that, the brain burns through its chemical fuel. We are trying to apply a physical factory metric to the delicate web of human thought. We are forcing a Ferrari to drive through a swamp for 8 hours and wondering why the engine is smoking. So, you must stop looking at your fatigue as a personal defect. You are not a broken machine. You are a highly sophisticated biological organism living in an artificial habitat. You were designed to track the stars, to read the rustle of leaves, and to move through the world in waves of action and deep rest. Instead, you have been placed into a fluorescent cage, forced to mimic the steady, unblinking output of a computer server. Think of yourself as a deep-sea creature that has been dragged to the surface. The pressure is wrong. The light is blinding. The creature is suffocating, not because it is weak, but because it belongs to an entirely different ecosystem. You cannot fix a planetary mismatch with a productivity app or another cup of synthetic energy. We have traded our natural rhythm for a collective illusion. We pretend that if we sit still for long enough, we can outrun our own evolutionary history. But the body always remembers what it is. The next time the afternoon fog rolls into your mind, do not curse your lack of willpower. Your brain is not failing you. It is merely staging a quiet, desperate rebellion against a world it never agreed to inhabit. In the end, we are all just ancient primates, desperately trying to apologize to our bodies for the clocks we invented to trap them.